Why do Mustangs always crash? This is actually not a very hard question to answer, believe it or not. And it has basically nothing to do with the cars themselves. So what is it? I'm sure basically all of us at some point have watched some video of some presumably idiot crashing an expensive exotic car, whether it's Lamborghini Diablo or a Ferrari F430 or a Porsche 918. I don't know, I haven't watched these videos in a long time. I don't like watching cool stuff get destroyed. Why does that happen? It's not really the car, it's the driver. And for all of you that are watching this and thinking, well, yeah, obviously, let me explain what I'm saying. So, those vehicles are accessible to the owners. Well, probably, I don't know their financial situation, but somehow they manage to own them. And most of them are probably not really that trained or qualified to drive a vehicle of that speed and that power and a high performance threshold, which seems obvious when they try to show off. And it goes to show when we see videos like this, the car, it's a lot more capable than the driver. And I know you're thinking, again, that seems obvious, and what does this have to do with Mustangs crashing? Mustangs are this on a much lower scale. What do I mean? These cars are incredibly accessible. I spent 16 grand on this car right here, and that is not a lot of money. And even if you buy a brand new Mustang GT, it's 40 grand probably, a little bit more than that. If you want to get different options, you could probably option it up to mid 50s for just a GT. But regardless, $50,000 alone is not that much money in the grand scheme of things when you think of how much a regular mid-size luxury sedan probably is. A 485, I think, for the newest versions of the Mustangs, the S650s that are coming out soon. A 485 horsepower rear wheel drive muscle car with a boatload of torque for 50 grand. That's really accessible. And although that's a lot of power and that's not a crap ton of money, all things considered, this car has 412 horsepower and it was only 16 grand and it has a live rear axle. This is the problem with bang for your buck performance cars, is that they're great value. A lot of people love that. They buy them, they drive them, they crash them. And this is basically the most successful sports car of all time. You could argue that, but by sales numbers alone, this is basically the most successful sports type car ever made. Most people can at least afford a Mustang. If you can't afford a brand new one, you can probably afford one of these. If you can't afford one of these, you can probably afford one of the older S197s, like an 05 to 09 with the 4.6 V8. If you can't afford one of those, you can probably afford an SN95. It goes on and on. All of those are V8 vehicles with rear wheel drive that have a lot of torque. Even the SN95s can get you into trouble. And I know that because I had a friend that owned one and it occasionally got him into trouble. Hey Bobby, what's up? But generally, this is one of the most powerful, most accessible cars to literally any budget that has ever existed. But the thing is, we see this issue not just with Mustangs, but a lot of different vehicles. Half the other vehicles you see crashing, leaving Cars and Coffee are things like Corvettes, or Vipers, or even GTRs. I don't know how you manage to wreck a GTR that easily, but it happens. But yet, the vast bulk of the crashing leaving a car meet, crashing going to a car meet, crashing drag racing on the street, crashing doing literally whatever, it seems like Mustangs. Are Mustang owners just idiots? No, Mustang owners are everywhere. Literally, no matter where you are, at least in the United States, drive for 10 minutes and I guarantee you, you will see pretty much at least one Mustang unless you just live way out of town. And even if you do live way out of town, you might see a Mustang parked in someone's driveway. It's not an uncommon car. So let's say you have $5,000. So you go and you find a decently clean SN95 New Edge that needs some work, and you get a 5-speed manual, and all of a sudden you have a 260 some odd horsepower, I think 300 pound-feet of torque or something close to that. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. Rear-wheel drive muscle car, that you could easily get yourself into a sticky situation with. And I think that that's the interesting point, is that everyone will point to something different about a Mustang and act as though that's why they crash. People will say, oh, it's the solid rear axle. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that doesn't help. People will say, oh, well, they have a short wheelbase. I've had people tell me this before. First of all, they really don't. This car's wheelbase is like 107 inches. That's not that short. That's 3 inches longer than my 350Z wheelbase. That's, I mean, like a whole foot longer than a Porsche Cayman or something like that. This car does not have a short wheelbase. Not really. Not even really for the size of car that it is. People will say, oh, they're hard to control, whatever it is. Honestly, driver mod. I think a lot of people know this realistically, but it's hardly ever mentioned. And this is a problem that is incredibly common in the United States. It is not hard to get your driver's license in the United States. It really isn't. A lot of other countries are much more strict than we are here in the States. And so almost anyone can get behind the wheel of a car once they turn 16. People that realistically sometimes could use more practice. And that issue kind of comes to a front when anymore, it is more accessible than ever in history, basically, to get a lot of horsepower in almost any car. You can get 300 plus horsepower out of a V6 Camry, which is insane considering this car only 1 year before this model year had 315 horsepower out of a 4.6 liter V8. And when horsepower is so accessible, especially in vehicles like the Mustang that have a lot of low end torque, or Challengers, or Camaros, or literally pretty much any V8 sedan, there's a lot of power that is very easily accessible for not a lot of money. And that is awesome, but that is also the problem. So hate on Mustangs for crashing all you want, because they do a lot. But I'm honestly curious to see what the next car that's going to crash all the time will be, because there will be another one, I guarantee it. So if you are a not particularly experienced driver and you're thinking about buying a fairly high horsepower, fairly fast car, God help us all. No, I'm just kidding. Just be careful and know your limits, because the car doesn't know your limits. The car will do whatever you tell it to. And if you unwittingly tell the car to crash into a tree, it will. Cars are super fun, but they can also be super dangerous. So please, anyone out there, be careful is mostly what I'm saying. I think all of us can agree stupid drivers are becoming more and more and more common no matter where you live. They certainly are where I live, and almost every stupid traffic incident that ever happens is followed immediately by another one for some reason. And unfortunately, fast cars are no stranger to that, and in a lot of cases, they're probably part of the problem. So yeah, Mustangs crash a lot, because people crash a lot. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was just kind of like a fun random side rant thing. It's not even really a rant, because I don't care if people make fun of my Mustang, whatever. People have made fun of every car I've owned, especially the Subaru. So hey, if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully in the next video. And hopefully you guys look forward to seeing more things done to this particular Mustang. I know, it's such an original vehicle. There's very few of them on the internet or the road. But with that being said, I'll see you guys all later. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye. I got schmutz on my lens. Oh no.